Today is February 2nd. It's the 33rd day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. If you've been listening since the very, very first day I started doing this show, some of this may sound a little familiar to you. And if you join the show later on in the run, this will all be new content to you. Either way, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Today is Groundhog Day, celebrated every year on February 2nd. You know the drill. If the groundhog sees his shadow, there are 6 more weeks of winter. If he doesn't see his shadow, that means it will be an early spring, which basically means 6 more weeks of winter. Carbonated soda drinks have been around since the late 1700s when Joseph Priestley first carbonates water by infusing it with carbon dioxide. For decades, soft drink bottles are capped with a cork and have to be stored on their sides to prevent the gases within from pushing the cork out or making the cork pop. In 1872, Hiram Cod, a British soft drink maker, invents the cod neck bottle, a glass bottle that's filled upside down and then sealed with a rubber gasket containing a marble. To open it, you push the marble down into the bottle. It's progress, but an Irish immigrant working at a machine shop in Baltimore comes up with a better idea. On this day in 1892, William Painter patents a bottle sealing device that becomes known as the crown cork bottle cap. A metal cap that is secured in place by teeth that grip the side of a specially designed glass bottleneck that, as he writes in his patent application, is, quote, highly effective and so inexpensive as to warrant throwing them away after a single use. Painter will go on to invent the bottle cap opener, a machine for capping bottles, and, of all things, a safety ejection seat for passenger trains. Ejection seats aside, William Painter, who patents the bottle cap on this day in 1892, will control the entire capping process, start to finish. And he'll begin the disposable product revolution, directly inspiring one of his young salesmen, named King Gillette, to invent a product of his own that people will use a few times before discarding and purchasing a new one. The Gillette Safety Razor. In January of 1925, a deadly diphtheria epidemic looms over the people in Nome, Alaska. It's assumed the temperature is too cold for airplanes at the time to fly into Nome, which is way up there on the coast of the Bering Sea. So Governor Scott Bone approves a different mode of transport and a plan to run serum from Nenana to Nome by sled dog. The serum is moved through the wilderness relay style by 20 mushers driving 150 dogs, passing from one dog team to another for 5 days over 674 miles. On the final leg, after running all night in near whiteout conditions so blinding that sled driver Gunnar Kaysen can barely see his hand in front of his face, Balto, a black and white Siberian husky, leads the team to their destination on Front Street in Nome, Alaska, at 5:30 in the morning on this day in 1925. Balto is honored with a statue of him in New York's Central Park. He does a stint on the vaudeville circuit and eventually ends up in Cleveland. When he dies in 1933 at the age of 14, Balto is mounted and put on display at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. And many years later, this great race of mercy run along the Iditarod Trail in 1925 will inspire another race which is run every year to commemorate sled dog culture and the historic trail itself, the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race. In 1959, in the northern Ural Mountains in western Russia, 9 hikers set up camp for the night. By the next day, they're all dead. The hikers, students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnical Institute, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, are trekking through the wilderness by foot and by ski. On this night in 1959, some terror of unknown origin comes upon them, compelling them to tear their tent apart from the inside out and flee without shoes or equipment. 3 of the hikers sustained fatal injuries from a force so great but that left little external injury that a medical examiner concludes it could not have been inflicted on them by another human being. The remaining 6 die of hypothermia. The injuries and evidence found at their campsite are so perplexing that investigators are unable to conclusively determine what happened to them. So theories abound. Aliens, a Yeti, a test of a top-secret nuclear weapon, an avalanche, though there's no clear signs of an avalanche, paradoxical undressing, a wilderness disorientation caused by hypothermia that leads one to disrobe in the coldest of temperatures, or infrasounds, that the shape of the mountain creates a vortex in the wind that results in a low-frequency response called an infrasound, which has been scientifically shown to cause feelings of uneasiness, extreme sorrow, revulsion, and fear. The scientific frequency of an infrasound is 17 Hz. I've been playing a 17 Hz tone for the last 30 seconds. Do you feel uneasy? Uncomfortable? Do you feel the hairs standing up on the back of your neck? I just turned the tone off. Do you feel better? Relieved? What exactly happens to the hikers in what's become known as the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unknown, and Russian officials can only say that an unknown compelling force was the cause of death. What was the terror that drove the 9 young Russian students out into the dark on this day in 1959? There are 332 days left in the year.